Hello and welcome. My name is Dave, and today I'm going to give you an introduction to using an Amazon Echo device, as well as the newly announced Alexa Skills Kit, which will enable you as a developer to create your own skills for Amazon Echo. All of the information I'll be presenting today is available for you at developer.amazon.com/ask, and that stands for Alexa Skills Kit. And you can find additional information on our blog at developer.amazon.com/blog. If you haven't used an Amazon Echo before, this video will give you a demonstration of the device. I'll show you some built-in skills, and then we'll jump into downloading the Alexa Skills Kit and how you can go ahead and build your own skills. We'll use AWS Lambda as an example hosting service for this video. And everything that you're going to see me use with AWS Lambda is available in the free tier at no cost to you. So let's talk about the Amazon Echo. Here's an image of an Amazon Echo. You can see it looks like a cylinder with speakers at the bottom. You can see an LED at the top that has a power button on the right and a mute button on the left. That LED will give back feedback based on what the device is doing, whether it's listening to you or not, or it's running one of the skills that I'll show you how to write in this video. Now, the magic of Echo comes from its 7 built-in microphones. It's able to hear you from all around, and it's able to use beam technology and noise cancellation so that it can actually detect your voice while something like loud music is playing from the device at the same time. Now, when you communicate with Echo, it's entirely done through voice. This is completely hands-free. And it's done using natural language understanding, so it's very conversational. For example, if I wanted to play a station on Pandora, I'd simply say the keyword, which by default will be Alexa, although you can change that to Amazon if you'd like. I would say, Alexa, play today's hit station on Pandora. I can also do things like reading an audiobook from Audible or turning off the lights if I integrate with some of the home automation devices. Alexa has some built-in features besides the skills that you'll write with the kit. Those include things like Wikipedia, TuneIn, Pandora, iHeartRadio, all of your Amazon Prime Music library, as well as Major League Baseball, Major League Soccer scores, and Audible. So I have an Echo device here right next to my laptop as I'm recording this. So let's switch over. And I'm going to unmute the device, and I'm going to show you an example. So let's just say hello. Alexa, hello.
Hi there.
Or we can pull something from Wikipedia. Alexa, what is Amazon.com?
Amazon.com Incorporated is an American electronic commerce company with headquarters in Seattle, Washington.
Or maybe we'd like to pull the latest sports scores. Alexa, what was the Phillies score?
Right now, the Phillies are tied with the Brewers, 2-2 at the bottom of the fourth.
And you also have the ability to use devices like the Belkin Wemo and the Hue Phillips to control different electronics and lighting in your house. You simply talk to the Echo device, and you can set that up through something called the Echo app. Now, the Echo app will run on iOS, it'll run on Android, and it'll run on Fire OS. And you can also pull it up in a browser. Through the Echo app, you're going to be able to set up exactly where you live. You can link to different accounts, for example, Audible and Pandora. You can see a running list of current skills that you have available. And we're going to go back to this as we start to code our own skill in order to use something called GUI cards. And you're seeing that right here for weather. So let me shift over into the browser. And I'm going to pull up echo.amazon.com. And you'll see the Philly score that we asked earlier is now showing us all of the innings. So let's go ahead and switch back. And you'll see as we add all of this functionality, the Echo through the Alexa service is getting smarter over time. So there'll be built-in functionality added to this device from Amazon, and there'll be new things that Alexa will learn through the skills that you'll develop. So let's go ahead and talk about some of the things that we just announced that go with the Alexa Skills Kit. So the Alexa Skills Kit is a collection of self-service APIs and tools, documentation we have throughout the portal, as well as numerous code samples that's going to allow you with minimal code experience to be able to create these skills for the Alexa service. We also announced coming soon we would have something called the Alexa Voice Service, or AVS. So if you are a hardware maker and you have a microphone and a speaker in your device, you can now tap into the Alexa service itself, and then you can go ahead and you create these skills using the Alexa Skills Kit to enable all of that functionality in your own device. The Alexa Fund is a $100 million investment that we've set up. You can get there at developer.amazon.com/Alexa Fund. And if you have an idea around using voice as a way for people all over the world to work with technology in fundamentally new ways, you can go ahead and you can apply to the fund directly from that page. So when you set up the Alexa Skills Kit, you're going to be able to get all of the documentation through the portal itself, and there's a couple different zip files. So there's going to be a zip file that will have Java and Java samples in it if you're creating a servlet web service, and there's going to be a zip file that has a bunch of AWS Lambda examples in it. Now, the way that the Alexa architecture is set up today, there's two responsibilities. The first responsibility is what Amazon will be providing for you, and I'm going to use the light blue Echo color here that you see on the right for anything that Amazon provides, and then I'm going to use a dark blue for what you need to write as a developer. So over here on the left, we have an Amazon Echo device, and on the right, we have the Amazon Alexa service that is now sitting up in the Amazon cloud. When a customer talks to the Amazon Echo device, the user audio is streamed to the Amazon Alexa service, and the service then looks at that audio stream, comprehends what's being said, and then is responsible for sending the audio responses back that are going to be rendered on the device, and that happens through text-to-speech or the GUI cards that you'll see returned. What's important to note here is that you're not interacting with the customer directly. Your skill is being called by the Amazon Alexa service. Only the Amazon Alexa service is going to be working with these endpoints like the Amazon Echo. So there's two parts here. The first part is going to be some configuration data that we'll set up in the Amazon Developer Portal. Now this is the same portal for the Amazon App Store. It's the same portal you would set up if you're deploying apps across any Amazon devices, Android tablets and phones, Fire TV, BlackBerry devices, all of those. And then the second piece is a hosted service that you'll be responsible for that's going to respond to requests from that Alexa service. So let's take a look at that architecture. Over here on the left, you see we have an Amazon Echo device, and then we have that same Amazon Alexa service. But what I've done now is I've added Amazon's developer portal where we're going to set up the configuration, and now we have the hosted service that you will set up. I'm going to be showing you in a little bit how you can set up that hosted service within a couple of minutes using entirely the AWS Lambda free tier. So we're going to go over to the developer portal, and we're going to set up information, all of that application metadata that a skill will need. We're going to set up something called an intent schema, as well as sample utterances so that the Alexa service can understand how to communicate back and forth through natural language. And then we'll also set up a service URL endpoint so that the Amazon Alexa service will know how to go ahead and post requests to your service. So when user audio is streamed, just like before, when a request comes into the Echo, it's going to go to the Amazon Alexa service. But now that Amazon Alexa service is going to use user intents and arguments. They're going to be sent directly to your service over SSL. And then you choose how you want to respond to those requests. That can include text-to-speech that you'd like to be played on the Echo device or whatever other Alexa endpoint is there, as well as information you'd like to return in a GUI card. Then the Amazon Alexa service will be responsible for making sure those audio responses are rendered on the device, and then GUI cards will be rendered in the Amazon Echo app, or as you saw at echo.amazon.com. Once a customer has enabled that skill using either the Echo app or the portal, they can go ahead and start those skills using the start or the open keywords. There's also a couple different keywords. You'll see all of them available on our developer portal. So here's an example of 2 ways to go ahead and launch your skill. For this example, I have an astrology skill. And I could do this all at one time. So I could say Alexa, start being the launch phrase, astrology being the name of the skill, and then the sample utterance here is and get the Pisces horoscope. So Pisces is the type of horoscope, and we're going to talk about how you define these in a second. I could also do this conversationally, so I could say, Alexa, start astrology, and now I am in skill mode, and so the Echo device is waiting, and it's going to return a response, what's your sign? So it's looking for that specific slot variable, which would be Pisces. Now, I mentioned the way that customers can enable skills is through the Echo app, so I'm going to switch over to echo.amazon.com here. And you'll see over on the left-hand side here, I have an item called Skills. So I'm going to click on that item. And then these are skills that I've already set up in the developer portal. I've set up the configuration, and I do have a hosted service endpoint that can communicate with that. So if we come down here, we're actually going to be building the colors demo today. So if I click on this, you'll see here are some of my sample utterances. Here's the name of my skill. I've also provided an icon, and then I can both enable or disable this skill across my devices. And so it's as simple as clicking this link here for a customer to disable your skill. Let's go over to the developer portal now and configure a new skill. So I've logged into the standard developer console here. You'll see this is developer.amazon.com/home.html. A /apps will get you here as well. It's free to sign up. And underneath apps and service that you can see here, if I click that, I'm going to have an Alexa service over here. So this is next to all of the other App Store services that are available for mobile developers. So let's click on Alexa. And you'll see I'm greeted with a couple of helpful links. So if getting started, you may want to take this one immediately after this course, as well as some other useful links, including walking through creating an Alexa skills Lambda function. And I'm going to click on Add a New Skill, which you can see right over here. We're going to give it a name, so we'll call this one Intro Skill. And then we need an invocation name. So this is actually the name that a customer is going to use to launch the skill. So I'm just going to say Colors Intro. And I strongly suggest that you look at the invocation name guidelines link that we have here. It's going to give you some guidance around what's best to use for invocation names. I'm going to say this is 1.0. And then we have the option to specify our endpoint. We haven't created anything yet, so we're just going to leave that blank for now. We're going to hit Save. And since we haven't set up any type of endpoint yet, we're going to go ahead and get an error message here. So don't worry about that right now. We're going to switch over to our PowerPoint deck. And I'm going to walk you through exactly what you need to do in order to set things up here. So when you're building an Alexa skill, the hosted service part needs to do a couple of things. The first is it needs to go ahead and adhere to the Alexa Skills Kit service interface, and we're going to define that in something called an intent schema. You need to be able to communicate over SSL, and you need to be able to use port 443 for that communication. So this means that it must be internet accessible. The current Alexa service is going to need to be able to communicate over the internet. So having something behind a firewall, maybe for internal purposes, isn't going to work today. And then you also need to have a trusted certificate. This certificate can be self-signed, so if you're using a utility like OpenSSL to develop a developer cert, you can use that for testing. But when you make your skill available to customers, you're going to have a trusted certificate from an authority. If you're using something like AWS Lambda, you don't have to worry about that trusted certificate. Lambda will already be a trusted source for Alexa. I'm going to show you how to wire that up in a little bit. Now, the way that your hosted service communicates with the Alexa service is through interactions that you define, and these are called intent schemas. On the left, you can see an example of one. Each intent is going to consist of two fields. So there's the name of the intent, and then there's a slot that's associated with it. If you've done any kind of development in the past, you can think of these as name-value pairs, with an intent being a function you would call, and then the slot being one of those arguments that would be passed in. These slots can be different types, so you can have a literal, which would be a string. You could have a number. You could also have a date type, and date types will be passed in to you as actual dates, but what's neat is when the Alexa service is interacting with a customer. So for example, if the customer says, show me the weather for tomorrow, it will actually figure out what that date is for tomorrow and pass you that date. And then we're going to map these intents with the way that a customer would interact, or what they would utter, through things called spoken utterances. And the more that you have here, the better that the Alexa service will be able to understand you. So what you can see over here on the left, these are some examples from our design guidelines, which you're going to find on our developer portal, and I'd highly recommend you go through these, especially as you're using different types. You may ask for a Boolean a little bit different than how you would ask for a date. So you can see some examples of what is, what's, tell me, give me, get, find, all of those. And an example here at the bottom, you can see get horoscope. What is the horoscope? And then we're sending a Pisces is the value. Sign is the name for that slot. But I could also have dates here. So get horoscope, that'll be, what will the horoscope be for Leo next Tuesday? Now, once you have all of the mapping with your intent schema and your sample utterances, as well as a valid endpoint set up, the Alexa service is going to post 3 core events to you that you're going to need to handle. And those event types are launch request, which is going to happen if the user launches your skill and they don't specify any type of values that you would need. An intent request is going to occur when they actually do specify something. So for example, get horoscope and assign. And then session ended request is going to happen when they actually quit your skill, or you do that from the code side. You can actually tell it to be session ended request equals true. So here's an example of what's actually being sent to your service. So you can see we are doing a post. You can see the SSL cert. And then inside of the body, what you're seeing here is new session ID and an application ID, which you should always be checking for. And then you're going to get a specific type of request for an intent. So this is an example of that intent request. And as you saw in the previous slide, these we're going to map in all the sample code the same way. So an intent request, I'm going to show you, is going to map to onIntent. I'm going to get a request ID. I'm going to get a timestamp. Both of those you can use for logging purposes. You cannot today get any kind of Amazon customer information, but you can get a deferred ID that will allow you to know over time that this is the same customer that's continuing to make the request, but it'll be completely anonymous. You'll just know how many times they're calling. So then we have an intent here with name and then all of our slots. So what you need to do is make sure you handle these requests over post and that you have them on port 443. And then you want to make sure you're checking for session variables because there's going to be no state that's shared from session to session. So you're going to be responsible if a new session starts that you're able to save all of that. And no worry, we have plenty of examples that shows how you can save state out. So for example, if you want to use a NoSQL database like DynamoDB. Now requests will always include that type, that request ID, and that timestamp, and these are going to map directly to the launch request, intent request, and session ended request. So now that we have all of this information, what we're going to do is we're going to drop into AWS Lambda. So if you're not familiar with AWS Lambda, this is a compute service that's going to run your code automatically in response to events, and so you're not creating all of that infrastructure around it. It's literally a web form. I'm going to throw some JavaScript in. I'm going to wire up an event to the Alexa service, and we're going to begin to just have a skill really, really quickly. So let's go ahead over to AWS. Now, currently today, the Alexa app service can only communicate with the US East region for AWS. So make sure that you log in there. So I'm going to log into North Virginia that you can see up here. So I'm definitely in the right region. And then over here on the left underneath compute, we're going to click on Lambda. And then what we're going to do is create a Lambda function. So this button right here. Let's go ahead and click on that. And we're going to name our function. So I'm going to call this intro colors, introduction to colors sample. And you'll see in this drop down, we're going to have multiple runtimes. I'm making sure that I have Node, but we also support Java. And then the code template that you want to pick is the Alexa Skills Kit Color Expert. We're going to make sure we have a basic execution role here. Now you'll see I already have an IM role of Lambda basic execution from some of the other skills I've been using, but I could totally create a new one here. I'm just going to say allow. And then you can just take the rest of the defaults here. So let's go to the bottom, and we're going to use create Lambda function down here. And now you see we have a new function, intro colors, introduction to the color sample. I'm going to click on the function name, and I'm going to do edit or test a function. And then on the right, you'll see this is the JavaScript that's following along with the same naming conventions for the intent. So we're going to have on launch, we're going to have on intent, and I'm going to show you as we walk through here what each of those is. But let's go ahead and make this a little bigger. So I'm going to copy all of this. Let's paste it in here. We'll save it. Okay. So you can see here we have just a standard JavaScript function. We're pulling in and we're checking the session application ID first up here. And then I'm going to come in and I'm going to look at the type of event request. So we have the same three events we talked about before. So I've got launch request, intent request, and session ended request. And then based on those, we're going to call these functions. So we've got session ended, on intent, and on launch. Now see, we're just logging, so any kind of console log is going to come up here, and then we've got our get welcome response if a customer launches without anything. If we call on intent, so we're actually passing in a slot, you'll see here I'm looking at the intent and then the intent name, and I'm checking to see if it's a color intent, and we're going to go ahead and get and look if it's in the session. We're going to pull it from session, or we're just going to do the welcome message. Now, these intents are included on the developer portal. You'll find both the sample utterances and the intent schemas. This is what they look like. You can see it's pretty simple. We just have the normal intent. My color is intent with a color of literal. And then this is some examples. So I could say my color is, my favorite color is, what's my favorite color, say my color. And we'll walk through this skill interacting live in just a second. So we have on session ended, we're doing some logging, and then we have our get welcome response. So this speech output that you can see, welcome to the Alexa Skills Kit sample. This is what the customer is going to hear the first time they run your skill, and they don't know any of the arguments to put. So this is, again, something you should be looking at the design guidelines, because most customers won't know how to run your skill the first time that they've enabled it. So you really need to have some clear instructions here. And you want to make sure as you go through and you prompt the customer that you're not asking them to deliver tons of information, that you're not asking them to, think for seconds on end of what their actual response should be. It should be pretty straightforward, quick, and easy, very conversational. And then I'm going to do a callback down here for build speechlet response with that output, and as well as putting information in a card. And the rest of this, we're just looking at handling that favorite color session variable. So you can see we're just setting values. We're making sure if it's there already or if it's not. I'm creating the color attribute value. I'm pulling it from session. So all just standard JavaScript. The important thing here is to see, in order to have Alexa return speech, it's as simple as just putting that into the with our favorite color here, and then returning that in our speechlet response. And now here at the bottom, you'll see for our build speechlet response, we have what we want to return. So we're returning plain text, the type of card title and output that you can see here, and then returning the value of whether we should end our session or not. So now that we've walked through this code, let's come back up here into the Lambda console, and we want to do some unit tests. So if we come up here and you look at the top, you can see we have examples of the type of intent requests that would come across. So if we have a new session, you can see here, I'm sending over an application ID, a session ID, and then a type. So this is just a standard launch request. So let's go over here and invoke our compute function. You can see this button right over here. And now at the bottom, let me scroll all the way down here so you can see better. You can see our function is returning JSON. It has output speech. It has welcome to the Alexa Kit sample as the output speech variable. You can see we have a card variable here. This is what will actually be returned as a GUI card. And then it has false for should end session. We're also getting some nice execution logs here, as well as a summary of how long that duration took and what our memory configuration is. So this is a great way to start doing some unit tests even before you've wired that up to the actual Alexa app service. So let me show you one with an intent. So you can see here my color intent. So we're going to set the value of the color to blue. We're going to go ahead and invoke that. And then you'll see my favorite color is blue. And we're going to return in JSON, I now know that your favorite color is blue. You can ask me your favorite color. and then we're going to return the simple type card again. So at this point, everything appears to be running well. We have a Lambda compute service set up that's returning JSON in the way that the Alexa service would expect. So let's go to our function list. Let's click on Actions, and then you'll see here we have an Add Event Source. Now, this is a common mistake I've seen developers at hackathons forget to do. We need to make sure that the Alexa service becomes an official event source type for Lambda. So we're going to select here Alexa Skills Kit, and we're just going to hit Submit. And if you're not sure if you've done this before, if you click Actions, Add Event Source, you're going to see right down here that Alexa is now an official event source. So let's cancel here. And then we're going to have an Amazon resource name here. I'm going to copy this entire string. And we're going to need to go over to the developer portal now and finish out our configuration now that we know the endpoint. All right. We're going to switch from HTTPS to the Amazon resource name here. Let's paste this in, and we can get rid of these extra characters since it already puts us in. And then we're going to save that endpoint. And you'll see we now have a green checkbox up here verifying that we have an endpoint. So I'm going to go and I'm going to click on Interaction Model. Let's copy over that intent schema that we talked about before. And then we're going to go ahead and copy over some sample utterances. Let's hit Save. Okay, we've updated our intent schema. Now you'll see we have a green checkbox for that. Now testing will allow you to go ahead and have this skill enabled on your own device. And so what you need to do to test is make sure that the Amazon account that you set up when you set up your Amazon Echo is the same email address that you used for your developer portal account here. And then as soon as you enable that, you're going to see that skill show up in the Echo app. You'll see here I also have some publishing information that I need to do. So I'm going to go ahead and click an image. So I already have one here. And you'll see the size should be 108 by 108. I'm going to pick a category, so we'll just say education, intro, colors sample. And then we're going to put in some example phrases. This will actually show up to the customer in the Echo app. So we called it intro color, intro skill we called this. Intro skill. My color is blue, or something like intro skill. What is my color? And then we're just going to say no for all these. We're not linking an account or real money. It doesn't need personal information, so we're not going to need to fill out any of these URLs. And I'm going to save this. And we're going to certify that the Alexa may be imported and exported from the United States, so make sure you just do this export compliance, and you see now we have all green checkboxes. So if we go back into our Amazon Echo app, and I recommend hitting home and refreshing. Sometimes it takes a little bit for it to show up. And you'll see skills over here on the left. We'll hit skills, and now you'll see we have intro skill. It is enabled, and so we should be able to ask Alexa right now to go ahead and start that skill. So let me switch over to the camera. Okay, and now we need to do the launch phrase. So let's go over into skill information, and we called it colors intro and not intro skill. So let's make sure that we have this here. So that shows up nicely as well. And you may need to test this a couple times until you get to a phrase that starts up with no um, problems at all. So colors intro should be pretty good. Let's go ahead and try it. Alexa, start colors intro.
Welcome to the Alexa Skills Kit sample. Please tell me your favorite color by saying, "My favorite color is red."
My favorite color is blue.
I now know your favorite color is blue. You can ask me your favorite color by saying, "What's my favorite color?"
What's my favorite color?
Your favorite color is blue. Goodbye.
So within just a few minutes, we actually have a skill running on my Echo device right here in my office. Now, let's have a little fun with this because this is all running in Node and it's all running in JavaScript. We can come in here, we can edit this function, and let's come down to where was our message. Welcome to the Alexa Skills Kit sample. Now you'll notice here when Alexa was speaking, she actually did a pause. So comma and period will both give you about the same pause if you want to do that. Let's do this. Let's say, hello. Congrats on writing your first Alexa skill. And we will save this. And now we'll ask Alexa. Alexa, start colors intro.
Hello. Congrats on writing your first Alexa skill. Please tell me your favorite color by saying, "My favorite color is red."
My favorite color is orange.
I now know your favorite color is orange. You can ask me your favorite color by saying, "What's my favorite color?"
What is my favorite color?
Your favorite color is orange. Goodbye.
And you'll notice I didn't use a contraction on that end. I actually said, what is my favorite color? So let's switch back over. Now that you have a working Alexa skill, you should be able to, from this sample, just hack it up and experiment, start to create different things. There's a bunch of different samples that you're going to find in our developer documentation on the same page, developer.amazon.com/ASK. Right under starting a Lambda service, you'll see more examples. And once you've gotten that where you feel comfortable with sharing that, there is a certification process. So inside the portal, let's go right back. And at the bottom here, you can see there is a submit for certification. So hitting that button will put you through the certification process. And once you've passed through certification, your skill will then be available for all customers when we enable them later on this year. I'd like to thank you for taking the time to watch this screencast. I hope you enjoyed learning about Amazon Echo and the Alexa Skills Kit. Be sure to check out more information on our developer portal and sign up for the blog today to get all new information we'll be posting around the Alexa Skills Kit. Thank you.